Hello everyone, we are here to talk about replacing the screen of our laptop. Now we can focus exactly on our LCD or LED screen here that's inside of this bezel, or we can focus on removing the entire laptop display. So we're going to go through a little bit of both. So to get started, the first thing I want to do is remove this top panel here of my laptop. This is where my power buttons are, as well as where my capacitive touch for my audio. To do that, I'm going to close my laptop lid, turn it upside down, and we have a couple screws to remove. The screws I need to worry about are going to be these three right here. So I remove those screws, and then we'll continue. With these three screws removed, I can turn my laptop back over, and I will open it up, and we could take a look at removing the power and audio panel. Now to do this, we got to worry about something. There's a couple of those ZIF, zero insertion force connectors. So let's zoom in and take a look at what we can do with that. All right, with our zoomed in view, we've got our power control over here, and then we've got our audio control over there. These are both using ZIF connectors, which are zero insertion force. So very easily and with minimal effort, I'll just take my flathead screwdriver and I'll pull up on that ZIF connector. I can pull that ribbon cable right out. And do it again over here, buried under there. But same thing, I can just pull up lightly on that ZIF connector and pull that cable right out. With the cable pulled out for both of those regarding this top panel, now I can take my flathead screwdriver and I can get in there and I can pop that panel out. With the top panel removed, we can take a look underneath and we can actually see how our laptop display is hooked on to the rest of the system. So we're going to zoom in on this and take a look at some of those screws that we can remove if we wanted to remove the entire display. Here in this top left corner, we can actually see the laptop hinge, and there is one of the Torx screws that I have to remove in order to remove this laptop display. On the other side, if I were to shift the laptop over, well, see, here's the other hinge. And again, over here, this is a screw that's holding on this entire laptop display. Now, that's not it. There's more. Let me back out and I'll show you. On the back side of my laptop, there's also another screw which is holding on for that laptop display with the hinge. I slide it over on the other corner. We've got the exact same thing, another screw that's holding that laptop hinge on. So if you didn't want to remove the entire laptop display, which includes the laptop top casing and all, we would remove all those screws, then we would go to lift the display off. Before you can lift the display off, we'll take a closer look at this motherboard one more time and what's connected to it. If I had to remove those 4 screws holding on those hinges, 2 on this side and 2 on the other side, we wouldn't be dumb. I couldn't just lift it off. What we have over here is the laptop LCD display cable. We would have to physically pull up on this and remove it from the connector on the system board. Also, right above that LCD display cable, I've got multiple black wires. These black wires here go for the wireless antenna that go to the top of my display. Over here on the right side, I've got multiple wires. These 3 wires are also for wireless antennas. Based off of your laptop, you may even have wires for things like microphones, as well as even for a webcam. So keep that in mind. These connectors are things that we'd remove from the wireless cards like we've done before, and we would use those connectors and uncable them from our little troughs here, which is the plastic frame, in order to be able to pull that entire display off the laptop. Now let's continue onwards talking about the exact screen itself and how we'd remove the LCD screen from my laptop. With this different view of our laptop, here we're going to take a look at removing and replacing the LCD screen itself, not the entire laptop display that we just talked about. To do this, we have these rubber pads here. My laptop has 4 of them. I will at first need to remove the rubber pads, and underneath them are screws that are holding this bezel on top of that screen. So I'll go ahead and do that now. With our zoomed in view, you can see me take my flathead screwdriver here and just pop that rubber foot off. And there's that screw underneath. And I'll just zoom out and do this 3 other times. With all 4 screws exposed, now I can remove those screws and get access to the bevel of my laptop. My 4 screws are removed. Now I'm going to use my flathead screwdriver and I'm going to lightly pry out one of the corners. Now please follow the manual for your laptop specifically. Mine requires a little bit with that corner out. Now I can just lightly go around this bezel and I can just pop it out of the display. At this point at the top, I actually have to use my slider in order to unlock the laptop and remove that display because those locks are stuck to the laptop locking mechanism. And now that my bezel's off, we have access to the LCD display where there's lots of screws to take account here. As well as if we look closely, we will see the connectors that come down to the system board and also the connectors that go to the inverter that's taking care of our power for our display as well. Now I've shifted to laptop so we can take a look at our display up here. And at first glance, you're like, there's a lot of screws to remove to get this LCD display out of this casing. Well, oddly enough, we only have 1 screw to remove here. And then over here, we have 4 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me show you these 4 on the side and how we're going to access them. To access those 4 screws, tilt my laptop on the side, and what you actually see here, you'll see these slot covers. And these are, again, little rubber covers that we have here. But this time, these are covering the screws. So we either try to peel them off using a flathead screwdriver on this side, or what we can do is really see those screws is push the covers out from this side over here. You see it lifts the cover up. So that cover lifted up, we can then take them off. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the 4 covers, then I'm going to unscrew those 4 screws and take it off the side. With our 4 screws out on the side, we can now remove our last and final screw. With the 5th screw out for my display, what I can do now is I can actually lift up this display. If you can't get your finger under it, it's okay to use something like a flat tool. You can just lift up. And now, this display is completely detached of any screw. What's holding it in place though at the bottom is what we mentioned before. I've got my connection which goes to my inverter. Now I've got my main LCD connection which goes back to the board as well. With all those removed, I'd be able to lift this display right out. After dropping that new display, I would put those screws back in that we just removed, and I'd have a replaced laptop LCD screen. Make sure you consult your manual for these steps. Every laptop is going to be different, and please make sure you choose the correct specifications for the screen that you're replacing. So take your time, do your research, and become the best IT professional you can by being patient and following the correct steps. Hello everyone, we are here to replace the CPU, fan, and the heatsink inside of our laptop. We've got the CPU right here underneath our heatsink and our fan. This fan gets covered in dust and debris, so you want to clean out this thing for sure and possibly replace it if that fan starts to go. Also with this heatsink here, this is going to carry the heat from our CPU and be cooled by that fan. So let's get started. Our laptop is opened up, our battery is disconnected, as well as our power adapter has been removed. So we're going to take a closer look and we're going to zoom in, but we have 6 screws here regarding my CPU and my heatsink. Also, there's a screw up here that's holding this fan in place. So let's zoom in, take a closer look, and start our removal and replacement. This would be an awesome time to consult your manual for your laptop and make sure that you're following the correct steps to actually disassemble your laptop and replace or remove your CPU, as well as your heatsink, as well as your fan. So we're going to start off first and we're going to unplug our fan Right here, this is the power adapter for the fan that goes to the laptop. You can use any type of flat-headed tool to try to pull this up. You can also try to use your fingers. Just make sure you consult your manual so you know how to remove it. For me, I use a flat tool and I can ply up our power adapter for that fan. And that's the fan that's going to be utilizing air to keep this heatsink cool, which will then in turn cool that CPU. So my fan is unplugged. Now what we want to do is I want to remove the screw at the top. And the screw at the top is holding that fan into place. So I can go ahead and get my screwdriver in there. Mine requires a Torx screwdriver for this one. So my screwdriver is in, and I'll just be able to take that screw out. The fan screw has been removed. Put that to the side. Then I have 6 are actually numbered. Those numbers are important when we're installing our heatsink and CPU, so it's a nice flush connection to that CPU, holding it in place. So I'm just going to follow the numbered order of 1 all the way through 6 for each screw step by step. My 6 screws have all been loosened, so this time I'm going to go ahead and pick up that fan first. And this fan will unsnap out of the case. And we can take a close look at it. That is dirty and dusty. That's one of those reasons you want to keep these things clean. Use that can of compressed air like it says in the manual for your laptop. Down below, we can see this is my heatsink. I can go ahead. I can pick this up. And again, I'll get the dust and dirt in there. So we make sure this is kept clean as well. That's the importance of the compressed air can. If this heatsink doesn't cool, that CPU is not going to stay cool. You can see there are remnants of thermal paste as well. So we can put some new thermal paste in our laptop and do this right. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to remove our CPU. We can clean this thing up and also we can install a new CPU in as well. Our CPU is right here, which was under the heatsink. So I've zoomed in. If you look closely, we had this screw here. And this is going to be the locking screw that's going to lock the latch that holds that CPU into place. So we're going to get this CPU out, which right now it's not going anywhere. I need to just turn this screw ever so slightly. It's very, very light force on this. Again, minimal effort, just as we saw before in another video. I can just put my flathead screwdriver in there and turn ever so slightly. And you see how it releases from the CPU, how it moves back. And now I can pick up that CPU from the laptop. And there it is. So we can take this CPU out. We can either clean it up and put it back in, or we can replace it with a new one. When you have your new CPU or your cleaned off CPU and you're ready to do your install, we'll take that CPU and we'll drop it into the slot. And once it's dropped into that slot, again, we're not going to push it in. We're going to take that screw at the top, which is that locking screw. And as we turn that locking screw, you can watch that CPU lock into place. There we go. So that CPU is now locked into place. We don't want to put the heatsink in just yet. What we'd like to do is take a little bit of our thermal paste and you'll follow the manual for your laptop for this. And we'll put a dot of thermal paste right in the middle of that CPU. There we go. Commonly the size of a pea. It's a little messy, you can always clean it off. Now, with it put on correctly, we'll take our heatsink, and our heatsink needs to sit exactly on top of that CPU. So let's zoom out and install that heatsink again. As we go to install the heatsink, just gotta align it properly. And once the heatsink is set up into place, we can go ahead and take our fan, and we put that CPU fan, which has been cleaned. It's nice and no longer covered in dust. You can put that back in, or if you're replacing the CPU fan, you drop a new CPU fan in, and ours just locks into place. We'll put that power back in for our CPU fan so we don't forget. Just push that little power cable back into the socket on the motherboard. And now we need to screw both the CPU fan and our heatsink back into place. So I'll take my Torx screwdriver, and we can go ahead and do that fan, lock that fan in. With the fan into place, we can then follow the order of our screws, which are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And we'll put them in that order. we've successfully installed our new or upgraded CPU, as well as our heatsink, as well as our CPU fan. Our system should be ready to go for us to put it back together, or to continue replacing and modifying our parts. Keep practicing, take your time, and make sure you consult your laptop manual for your specific instructions for your device. Thanks for watching, and keep working on becoming an IT professional. Hello everyone, we're here to replace a laptop keyboard. Now I have two different laptops to show off. This laptop with the keyboard it's a little older, but it's still got a lot of features. For this model, we've got some locking tabs here that we'd have to work with. Also, on the back side of this laptop, if we close it and flip it over, we'll find that we actually have screws to deal with as well. With this laptop, I have 1, 2, 3 screws that'll have a keyboard icon on them, which has been identified by my manufacturer's manual. So for us to get started on this laptop, we would first unplug our power adapter. We would eject our battery from the laptop, and then we just zoom in and take a look at these 3 screws. So let's go ahead. Now if we take a close look, we can see that 1 screw, 2, and screw number 3 here. We'll zoom in on the middle one, and on that middle screw, what you'll see is a keyboard icon. Now this is specific to this specific laptop. The other laptop I'm going to show does not have any screws that are securing the keyboard. For this laptop though, when I follow the instructions in my manual, it says do not remove the screws, just loosen them. And that's what I've done. I unscrewed them enough so that they're loose and you can see how it's moving there. Now that those screws have been loosened, I can turn my laptop back over and we'll take a look at the keyboard. With those screws loosened, we've got our keyboard available here. We're going to take a look at 4 sliding locking tabs, and we have to unlock those by sliding them back. Right now they're being held by that frame. So we'll zoom in and take a look at those 4 locking tabs regarding this specific laptop. So we are zoomed in, and we're going to take a look at these locking tabs. Here's the first one, and right now this keyboard is being held by the frame. So I can take a flat object like my flat-headed screwdriver here, and I can just slide that locking tab back, and now you see the keyboard is loose there. I can continue for the rest of my keyboard. Just slide the next lever back in the 3rd one, and then of course our 4th one. And now our keyboard is completely loose, and we can pull it out. So that first laptop pretty much done except for the connector. Let's take a look at the second laptop as well as the same connector there that we would have seen on the first laptop. On the second laptop, there are no screws to remove on the bottom of the laptop. And also there's no locking tab. Instead, we're just going to have our slots where we need to press to disengage the locks for the keyboard. So I'll zoom in on those and I'll be able to show you how to do it. So if we take a closer look, we'll see at different locations, we have these securing clips for our keyboard. And again, there is no screws for this keyboard, which is very different that we saw on the other laptop. So all I need to do is take a flat-headed object like my screwdriver, and I can press in there, you'll hear it click, and now the keyboard is going to come up. And I'll go across to every single securing clip, and I'll disengage it by pressing in there. Also, you can hold on to the keyboard as you depress on those securing clips. And now it'll come up. And here's my keyboard where I can flip it over. Underneath, we'll see 2 ribbon cables. We'll zoom in and take a look at those next. So we've got our zoomed in view, and here we can see our 2 ribbon cables coming off of our system board and attaching to our keyboard of our laptop. So we need to remove these. Now these are called the ZIF connectors, zero insertion force, and they can be easy to break. Trust me, experience. So what we want to do is take a flat bladed tool and we're going to remove both these ribbon cables. Now you may just have 1. I have 2 because I have 1 for the keys for the keyboard. And I can just put my flat bladed tool underneath, and I can literally just pull up this lever. And now I can take that ribbon cable out. So minimal force for this. You don't want to break these ZIF connectors, which I have done. This other one for me, this second cable, this is for the power for the backlighting for my keyboard. My keyboard, the keys, they light up. So this is the cable for the backlighting. So I did the same thing. I'll just take a flat bladed tool and I'll lift up on that zero insertion force connector. And I can just take the ribbon cable, and you see how it's oriented? It says up. I can take it out. So the keyboard is now completely removed, and now I can put in a new one. Assuming you bought a new keyboard, you would take your keyboard, put it face down, and then you'll locate the correct direction for your ribbon cable, and all you have to do is slide it into that zero insertion force connector. Then we just push down on that lever. Again, minimal force for that is not going to come out. I'll take the other ribbon cable. This one also is oriented with up on it, and it sits for my backlighting of my keyboard. Now I'll put it in its slot for the zero insertion force connector. And once it's in, I can push down and secure it into place. At this time, I will zoom out and we'll finish our install of our keyboard. With those ribbon cables back and installed, we can take our keyboard and I can angle it in. You can see those tabs at the bottom. I need to slide into the laptop and get those at the right locations, and that laptop keyboard will slide into place. With it slid into place, I can just push those locking clips back in across the top. And now that keyboard all, take your time with these steps as you replace your keyboard in your laptop. And remember, minimal fast. Follow the instruction manual for your specific laptop and become that IT professional. Hello everyone. If you come to that point in time when you feel like you should replace your speakers, ask yourself some questions first. For example, my speakers are right here at the front of my laptop. And if I don't hear any audio coming out of those speakers, I'm going to double check to make sure they're not muted, and also that the volume level just isn't set really low. After I verify that the speakers aren't muted and that volume level is boosted up and still I'm not hearing anything, it'll be time to replace these speakers. Now, I followed my manual and I had to disassemble my laptop very thoroughly in order to be able to get to these speakers. I'm almost done. According to my manual, I have 3 more screws. 1, 2, 3. I'll remove those 3 screws that include my PCMCIA card slot, as well as my SD card slot and this system board here. After I remove that, we'll come back and continue. With that last set of components removed, my speakers for my laptop are now accessible. Right here, what we can see is here's my speakers for my laptop, and they are connected by a connector into my system board. So before I can remove these speakers, I'm going to have to remove that connector. So let me zoom in for you and I'll show you what we're working on here. All right, so we got our zoomed in view, and here you can see our laptop speakers installed up front, and then we can see the connectors that go to our system board from that laptop speaker. And if you take a quick look at it, there's the laptop speaker. It's got some identification codes on it. We can replace that part if needed. And we see that connector going to the system board. So either we can try to use our fingers to pry up that connector and it should pull vertically straight up, or we can use something like a flathead tool or a flathead screwdriver. I'm going to move that laptop speaker out of the way, and I'm going to take my flathead screwdriver and I'm going to push it and pull up on that connector very nice and with minimal effort so you don't damage anything. And there it comes up. The connector is good. We didn't damage any of the pins. And now our laptop speaker has been removed. You purchase a new laptop speaker, you would drop it in and install it with minimal. Hello everyone, let's look at the common input devices and some LEDs that we may find on an open laptop. So take a look at these everyday essentials, shall we? I'll open up my laptop, and first thing we're taking a look at is here at the top of my screen. Like, well, something's wrong. What's missing? Well, what's missing at the top of my screen on my laptop is I don't have a video input device, which is a webcam. I also don't have an audio input device, which would be a microphone. But up here, what is at the top of my laptop screen is antenna from a wireless network card. These wireless network cards, you'll usually find them down below, underneath your keyboard, and they'll be attached to your motherboard, somewhere under here. Those wires from that wireless network card will go up the side of that display into the top, like I have showed you. So that's the common item. So when your laptop lid is open, you'll have a good wireless signal. Now, to continue on, we've got this touchpad. And our touchpad is where we can, of course, move our cursor. This is an input device for your mouse. We have our left click, our right click, and look at these lines. This is called the scroll zone. With the scroll zone, it's just like being able to scroll up and down with a mouse wheel on an external mouse. I can scroll up and down on web pages and things like docs. Now continuing onwards, we want to take a look at some of these keys here and what we have and don't have. The first thing you'll notice is I don't have a 10 key keypad attached on the right side of my laptop. Some of our larger laptops will have a 0 through 9 10 key keypad. For mine, they're actually built in to my normal keys. For example, if I were to hold the function key, I could then press 7, 8, or 9 and it will do in blue 7, 8, 9. Also, we can see that J is 1, K is 2, L is 3, and so on. That's my keypad. It's integrated into my current keyboard when I hold down that function key. As we continue on and talk more about the function keys, we'll zoom in a little bit and go to the top. At the top of my keyboard, we'll see that I can hold the function key and use F3. F3 is the moon, which is the sleep symbol that will put my computer to sleep. F4 is going to send my display to an external output or mirror what's on my laptop display to an external output. Think connecting to a projector or an external monitor. With function in F8, which is a battery, I can actually see my battery status on the screen. Function F9, that's turn down my screen brightness, helps me save battery life. F10 will increase my screen brightness. We need better visibility. F11 is going to control your ambient light sensor. Ambient light sensor allows your screen to automatically display what it thinks is best for the room conditions you're in. On the top right side, we've got our number lock break, and we've got 2 more keys here, print screen and system RQ. Really top right, which you'll notice here, is a little microphone symbol. This is actually my audio in. My laptop does have an integrated mic, which is right there. Besides those function keys, what I'd like to show you is the keys at the top of the laptop. These keys are special. They're going to be based off of the type of laptop that you've purchased, and these are known as capacitive. It's capacitive touch, because when I press on that audio button, it's going to automatically mute. Now it's capacitive. It doesn't push down like a key on a keyboard. It just senses your touch. This is a scroll capacitive touch for audio volume level. Scrolling to the right will increase volume, scrolling to the left will decrease. On the far left, I have customizable buttons. I have an info button that I can set in software on my computer. Then I've got a presenter button that I can set in software. The presenter button is different than function F4. The presenter button, I can click on that and have that change my power plan or settings on my laptop. In the middle, I have my wireless status indicator. These can also be capacitive as well to disable or enable your wireless networking adapter. So to close it up, what we want to take a look at is some of the LED lights besides these capacitive items at the top, and then of course a power button there with a power light on it. But what we're going to do is take a look at the bottom of my laptop keyboard. I've got my wireless network LED. I've got my power LED for powered on. I got my battery charging indicator LED. My hard disk activity light for my hard drive. Now on the other side of all the way over here, what we'll find is this interesting little contraption. This is going to be a biometric fingerprint scanner, and that is another input device. We can utilize this for authentication. These fingerprint readers can authenticate your laptop when you log in to the operating system, or even used by applications for you to authenticate within an application or on a website that requires special software. Now, with everything we've taken a look at with this laptop, it's going to be different from other laptops you're going to find because every vendor and every model are going to be a little bit different. But as you proceed in your journey towards being an IT professional, I hope you feel more comfortable understanding the common input devices and LEDs of a laptop. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Install the Data Connectors video. First, we want to take a look at our motherboard and find those SATA data connectors. They're down here. I've got 4 of them. Also, on my solid-state hard drive, I've got the SATA power connector that we installed previously, but I removed it so we can see that SATA data connector, which is the smaller of the 2 on this side. So to get started, step 1, we need to align our SATA data cable, and it's notched to fit exactly down below. So we'll align it. And then after it's aligned, we can just gently push it in, and it will click into place. Step 2, we'll take our right angle SATA data cable here, and we're going to connect it with its corresponding connector on our hard drive. And it clicks into place. Awesome. Thank you for watching our Connecting the Data Cables video. For us to do an upgrade on RAM. So in this video, we're going to install SODIMM memory. And SODIMM RAM is the RAM that we're going to use inside of our laptop. For us to get started, first you want to disconnect our battery. So I'm going to release the battery by using my corresponding buttons on the back of the laptop, and I can pull that battery out. After removing the battery, it's time that we make sure there's no electricity left inside of our components on our laptop. So I can open the laptop, then we can press and hold that power button just to discharge any remaining electricity. Now that all the power has been discharged in the laptop, we can close it up. And we want to access the RAM access panel. Here in the middle of our laptop, I can see that there's a symbol for RAM. And this is where we're going to open this up and change out the RAM inside of our laptop. So we have our zoomed in view, and we can see our symbol here that this is where our RAM memory is for this panel. You can see we have some ventilation here to help heat dissipate. Also, there's another screw here that this has a keyboard logo on it. We just need to remove the screw here in order to access our RAM inside of our laptop. So I can go ahead and I'll unscrew it. With the screw out, we just need to pop that panel up and then we can access our RAM. Now the question is going to come into play is, what type of RAM should we be using? Well, that's going to be based off of our documentation. Inside of here, we can take a look and see what type of RAM this is currently. Also, we can take a look at the documentation for the model and manufacturer of our laptop to see which RAM would be recommended to replace it with. Now, to replace this stick of RAM that we see here, we have to take some steps. We've already got the power adapter unplugged from the laptop. We've already removed the battery from the laptop. Now that we have the RAM displayed, I can take these metal clips and I can pull them outward. When I do that, the RAM is going to shift and it pops up at about a 45-degree angle. It's going to be loose, so now I can just take it from the ends and pull it straight out. I'm going to put this on my anti-static mat that we're working on here at this time. So now I would get my new RAM that I'm going to replace the older RAM with. And again, this is going to be laptop memory. This is SODIMM. In comparison, here is desktop memory that I currently have. And you can take a look at the desktop memory size versus the laptop. There was a very big difference there. So you want to make sure that you're shopping for the right type of RAM. After you've purchased the correct type of RAM with maybe more memory or faster speeds, we want to install it. So you take the RAM that we purchase and this keyed. You can see the keyed slot there. It's only going to go in one way. I will put it in at an angle. Again, it doesn't have to be precise, but you'll slot it at that angle about 45 degrees. You watch those gold pins go in, then I can just push it straight down, and those metal clips on the sides will lock into place. And there they are, they're locked in. Now, what you saw was only one RAM chip. Commonly, laptops have two. So where's the second one? Well, depending on the laptop and the manufacturer, that second RAM slot is probably under the keyboard, which means we would have to remove the corresponding screws to gain access under the keyboard and touchpad, and there we would find the second RAM slot. So we can go about doing that in another video when we access underneath the keyboard and touchpad. To close it up, we'll literally tin to place. It's in, and then we would screw it back closed. Again, we've completed our RAM upgrade for our laptop. Hello everyone, in this video we get to work on an internal storage drive and an optical drive. Right here in the bottom right corner, we're going to start here first. Before we get our hands dirty, let's make sure that we have our battery unplugged, as well as our power adapter cable removed from our laptop. At this point, we're going to zoom in on this internal storage drive access panel here, and we're going to remove and replace a laptop hard drive. So let's get started. So we've got our access panel for our laptop hard drive. You can see that there's one screw here marked with that disk symbol, and another screw up here marked with another disk symbol. So we're going to remove those two screws to gain access to our laptop hard drive. With both screws loosened, we're ready to open up that access panel. I have a little tab here you can see it's going to lift up, and I can just pick up and pull out that access panel. Below is the hard drive. This is my laptop 2.5-inch hard drive that we have inside of our laptop computer. To access this, you can see that I have one screw over here, which we're going to need to unscrew. And we see this is the SATA connector, so we know what direction this hard drive has to come out. This screw is loosened. In order to remove this from the SATA connector that we see right here, I'm going to have to grab this tab, and I'm going to lift and slide it back. The hard drive is now disconnected from the SATA port on the motherboard of our laptop. I can just pick this hard drive up, and it's removed. So here's our platter SATA 2.5-inch hard drive that we'd like to replace. Now you can see this inside of this shield here, which is this metal shield, and then we have 4 screws holding it in. 1, 2, on the other side, 3, 4. What we will do is, off camera, remove the shield off of this platter 2.5-inch serial hard drive. That's a 120 gig hard drive. I want to replace it with my 250 gig, twice the size, solid state hard disk drive. With the solid state hard drive installed inside of my metal adapter plate, now I'll need to rest this back in the slot. Then I'll push it sideways until it locks into play. If you're trouble pushing it, don't forget you got this tab here that we can use and pull it and slide it into place. At this point in time, we can put our screw back in right here. Just go ahead and screw it back down. The hard drive is slid into the SATA connector. The screw is back in. Now we'll replace our access panel. The access panel is on, but now we have to screw in both our screws here to hold it into place. Our internal storage drive is now upgraded through to remove. So let's zoom in, take a look at that screw, and then also the procedure from me to remove my optical drive from this specific laptop. So we're zoomed in. You'd see that screw. It's got that optical disc insignia on it for that icon. I'll remove this screw, and that's going to make my optical drive more accessible. For this laptop, not completely accessible, just more accessible. So let's get that screw out of there, and I'll show you the next step for this specific laptop. Now the screw is out. It looks like we'd be good just to pull out an optical drive, but we're not. This laptop does not have a slot for me to easily push the optical drive out. This laptop is a little bit different. So I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to show you how to remove this optical drive from this laptop. So to start, you can see where we remove the screw, which is right here. But now for the optical disk drive, we got to remove it. It doesn't just pull straight out. What I actually have here in this model is a disconnect/eject button. That's different than just putting in a CD or DVD. What I need to do is push relatively firm straight in and release. And my drive disconnects from inside the laptop, and I can pull out the optical drive. If I purchase a new optical drive, I can replace it just by sliding it back in. Giving it a firm push, it's locked back in. And now to finish up, I'll put my screw back in to that lock slot for the optical drive. With the screw installed, we can reconnect our laptop back up with our battery and our power adapter, and we're good for our upgraded optical drive and our internal hard drive. Hello everyone, it's time to chat about a not so common item that you may find or may not find in the workplace. This mysterious item would be a docking station or a port replicator. The docking station allows a laptop computer to function similarly as a desktop computer in the workplace. It does this by utilizing extra ports and connectors in order to connect peripheral devices, as well as provide functionality and connectors that may not be built into your laptop. So here's my docking station that we can take a look at. On my docking station, what we can find here is a security key slot, just like we saw on a laptop computer. And these security key slots allow you to lock this docking station down to a desk so it's not easy for thieves to steal. Next to that, we have an S video connector. We have a component and display. We've got this one here, which is actually an optional proprietary monitor stand connector for a specific vendor. We've got our speaker out port. We've got our line in audio connector. We've got PS2 mouse and keyboard, your green and purple. We've got this turquoise serial port, which is not common to find anymore. We've got our maroon or purple parallel port, commonly with printers. We've got our VGA. This goes to our normal monitor out. DVI for display out as well. And here, this is your power. This is where we actually are going to be connecting our power connector, which will also power our laptop and charge the battery. Over here, we have our RJ11 connector. We have our RJ45 Ethernet, and we've got 2 USB ports. Now on this side over here, we have another 2 USB ports to make a total of 4 USB ports completely. So what's the big deal about a docking station? Well, imagine being able to keep the docking station sitting on your desk in your cubicle or office at work. You would leave your peripherals and external connectors plugged into the docking station. When you arrive at work, you would simply place your laptop on top of your docking station and you'd be able to lock it in. Now to lock it in, what we actually have here is this docking connects. You would take your laptop, and you have the docking connector here with those holes for the stand. It was simply press it on top and lightly press down, and now it's locked in to the docking station. When I'm ready to leave work and I'm done for the day, all I need to do is push down on this eject button here. So and my laptop is ready to go with. So what's a port replicator then? Well, these docking stations are commonly proprietary in nature. For example, this one, with a proprietary docking connector for laptops made by that vendor. A port replicator usually connects via USB. The port replicators commonly have less features than these docking stations and less connectors. Since port replicators connect via USB, they're better designed for multi-vendor devices in the workplace. Different employees will be able to use the same workspace at the workplace. Next time you see one of these docking stations, or you find a port replicator, you know how to interact and better. Hello everyone, it's time for us to go over some laptop power options. Here we're going to manage the consumption of power for a laptop device, and it's not going to be boring of here's how we control power. It's going to be interactive of how we can make the laptop function better for us, utilizing the power options that are available to us. So let's take a look. First, if I wanted to, I can right-click on my battery indicator and click on power options. That would take me where we want to go. Or for the more official route, I can click on Start, click on Control Panel, and then inside of my control panel, I can go to Hardware and Sound. Inside of Hardware and Sound, we will also find Power Options. I'll click on Power Options, and now this is where we're going to spend some time. To begin, the first thing we want to do is control the actions of what our power and sleep buttons do, as well as what happens when we close the lid of our laptop. I can go to the left side of my screen. I can click on Choose what the power buttons do. When I click on Choose what the power buttons do, what we'll see here at first is that I have some options I can switch between, and these are based off of 2 columns. I've got a column regarding what's going to happen when my computer's on battery power only and I press the power button or the sleep button, or when I'm physically closing the lid. I have a whole nother column regarding when the computer is plugged into a power adapter that goes to a wall outlet and how the computer is going to respond when you press the power button or sleep button or close the lid. So for example, if my laptop is plugged in and I press the power button, I can click my drop-down menu and I can have it shut down. Also, when I press the sleep button, I'd probably like it to sleep. And sleep is using less power than being on. But hibernate is the lowest amount of power that can be pulled. The system state will be saved to the hard drive when you select hibernate. Now I can choose between sleep and hibernate for any one of these items as I see fit. Also, when I close the lid, I can just have my laptop do nothing. The display would turn off, but the computer would still be running full power and going. But of course, we can compare and contrast how we want to design this based off of the column of on battery versus plugged in. down below is some shutdown settings here. I can actually click my little shield up here, which is User Account Control, UAC, and it gives me access to the settings down below. Fast startup is similar to a hybrid hibernate. It uses the hibernate system file for us to be able to recover back. It allows us to recover faster than a hibernate, but then again, it's to use more power than a normal hibernate. We have our sleep option as well as a hibernate option, and of course, just being able to lock our machine. We're done with these settings, so go ahead and click Save Changes, and now we're back to our general power options screen. At this time, what we want to do is take a look at a power plan. We're in the power plan menu by default here in power options, but what I can do is I can click on change plan settings, and we'll see that for our plan of balanced, we can adjust our screen brightness, the actual time delay of when our screen will be turned off. Once you move your mouse cursor or push a key in the keyboard, it would come back on. Or also for inactivity, how long do we put the computer to sleep? Putting the computer to sleep saves us some battery power, but not as much as that fast startup or hibernate or turning the computer off. Also, regarding screen brightness, we can control the default brightness level when we're running on battery or when we're plugged in to a power outlet. At this time, it's time for us to go a little bit deeper into our plan settings, and I want to show you some of the powerful options you can have regarding saving battery life and optimizing your usage. I'm going to click on Change Advanced Power Settings. Inside of Advanced Power, we want to focus on literally physical characteristics that can change. For example, the plan I'm on right now is Balanced Active, and you can create other plans and use different plans. With the plan of Balanced Active, I can change how many minutes until the hard disk is turned off. Or for even more settings, I can go and expand wireless adapter settings in the power saving mode, and I can choose regarding performance of my wireless adapter card depending on if my laptop's running on battery or running off of a wall outlet. This allows you to really customize that power usage depending on how mobile you're actually being. Outside of the wireless adapter settings, I can even scroll down and go to the battery settings, and this is extremely important. In the battery settings, which I can expand, I can actually set levels for alerts regarding when my battery is marked as having a low battery level or even a critical battery level. So for example, I can expand critical battery level, and I can choose the percentage for when my laptop should notify me that it has critical battery left. And even better, once that critical battery percentage is hit, I can actually control the action. I can expand critical battery action, and I can have my computer automatically, if it's running on battery only, without being plugged in, I can have that automatically shut down the machine. So I'm not going to have to worry about having errors on my machine by just powering off randomly because it finally runs out of battery. If it's plugged into a wall outlet, I can just have it go straight into a sleep or hibernate or even do nothing. Maybe I just plug into the wall outlet and I'm expecting it to charge very quickly and higher than that critical battery alert. We have a lot of customization we can do here, and we have a lot of fine tuning. So make sure that you play with your own power options, customize your laptop to work as best for you and your work environment, and become that awesome IT professional. Hello everyone. We want to get some Bluetooth connectivity going here with our computer. Now to do this, there's a couple ways to go about it. There's really like 3 common ways we can go. Now it depends on your Windows operating system. But here in Windows 10, the first thing I can do is click on my Action Center in the bottom right corner. And I can make sure that my Bluetooth is even on, which is Bluetooth and not connected. I can click on that to turn off Bluetooth, or I can click on it to turn it on. I can even right click on it and click on Go to Settings. And that's going to take me to my Bluetooth settings immediately, which is great. Let's go to other methods. What I can do in Windows is I can click on the Start button, and I can go to the Control panel. And in the control panel, I can go to add a device, which is inside of hardware and sound. And I can add a device including Bluetooth that way. Another way I can do it is I can go to start and I can type in settings and I can click on settings. Inside of settings, I can go to devices. And in devices, we'll be here at the Bluetooth settings. Whichever way you prefer, there's multiple ways to get to the same destination. At this point, what I want to do is add a Bluetooth device. So we're going to pause here, and I'm going to turn on my Bluetooth headset. So I've got my Bluetooth headset, and every model will be a little bit different. We're not here to do a video on a Bluetooth headset, but in general, this is the Bluetooth device I'm going to connect. So after researching my device and pulling up the manufacturer's manual for this, I need to put this headset into pairing mode. In pairing mode, I can press and hold that power button, and according to my manual, when the light starts flashing red and blue alternating, then it's in pairing mode. There we go. It's red and blue. Now it's in pairing mode, and we can continue by adding it to our computer. Okay, so to continue, the Bluetooth headset is on, and it's going to be in a pairing mode. What I need to do now is click Add Bluetooth or Other Device. When I click on that, it wants to know what type of device I'm going to be adding on. I'm going to click on Bluetooth because this is going to be an audio device for a headset. So it's looking for the devices. Here it finds some. This is the headset that I have connected that I want to hook up via Bluetooth. I can click on that audio headset, and it's going to connect to it and pair with that headset. The device is ready to go. It says we're connected with voice and music from my headset wirelessly using Bluetooth with my computer. I'll click on Done, and we can even verify this by going back to our Action Center here in Windows 10, and we can see Bluetooth and the name of the device that's connected. If I'm done for the day, I can always turn off my Bluetooth adapter, which will disconnect it from my headset. Also in the future, if I turn on my Bluetooth on my computer, if that headset is nearby, it should be able to connect back to it automatically. And there it is, Bluetooth is on and the headset is connected again. Hello everyone, it's time to chat about a not so common item that you may find or may not find in the workplace. This mysterious item would be a docking station or a port replicator. The docking station allows a laptop computer to function similarly as a desktop computer in the workplace. It does this by utilizing extra ports and connectors in order to connect peripheral devices, as well as provide functionality and connectors that may not be built into your laptop. So here's my docking station that we can take a look at. On my docking station, what we can find here is a security key slot, just like we saw on a laptop computer. And these security key slots allow you to lock this docking station down to a desk so it's not easy for thieves to steal. Next to that, we have an S-video connector. We have a component and display. We've got this one here, which is actually an optional proprietary monitor stand connector for a specific vendor. We've got our speaker out port. We've got our line in audio connector. We've got PS2 mouse and keyboard, your green and purple. We've got this turquoise serial port, which is not common to find anymore. We've got our maroon or purple parallel port, commonly with printers. We've got our VGA. This goes to our normal monitor out. DVI for display out as well. And here, this is your power. This is where we actually are going to be connecting our power connector, which will also power our laptop and charge the battery. Over here, we have our RJ11 connector. We have our RJ45 Ethernet, and we've got 2 USB ports. Now on this side over here, we have another 2 USB ports to make a total of 4 USB ports completely. So what's the big deal about a docking station? Well, imagine being able to keep the docking station sitting on your desk in your cubicle or office at work. You would leave your peripherals and external connectors plugged into the docking station. When you arrive at work, you would simply place your laptop on top of your docking station and you'd be able to lock it in. Now to lock it in, what we actually have here is this docking connects. You would take your laptop, and you have the docking connector here with those holes for the stand. It was simply press it on top and lightly press down, and now it's locked in to the docking station. When I'm ready to leave work and I'm done for the day, all I need to do is push down on this eject button here. So and my laptop is ready to go with. So what's a port replicator then? Well, these docking stations are commonly proprietary in nature. For example, this one, with a proprietary docking connector for laptops made by that vendor. A port replicator usually connects via USB. The port replicators commonly have less features than these docking stations and less connectors. Since port replicators connect via USB, they're better designed for multi-vendor devices in the workplace. Different employees will be able to use the same workspace at the workplace. Next time you see one of these docking stations or you find a port replicator, you know how to interact and better. Hello everyone. It seems that the world of IT is now focused on efficiency and convenience. Across the globe, we have laptops being sold more than desktops. IT professionals and the consumer want to be mobile. They want to be able to work whenever and wherever they choose without being tied to a desk or cubicle. Both desktop computers and laptops have a lot of the same hardware features in common, but their placement is very different. So let's look at the external features that are unique to laptops. To start, we will take a look at the front of a laptop. For my laptop in particular, what we can see here are the LED lights. And these LED lights we'll take a look at and discuss in a later video. But right at the middle front of the laptop, mine has a locking mechanism for the lid. It's just a basic lever. I can close the laptop, and it locks the lid closed. It protects the keyboard and the screen. Below that on my laptop, I have a secure digital multimedia card reader. You can use this for your camera cards and other devices. Besides the front of the laptop, we're going to take a look at the side. This is one of the most important items in my book. It's called the ventilation grill. The ventilation grill is extremely important as it allows our laptops to eject hot air when the internal fan turns on to cool it. This process allows our laptop to function. As our laptops get smaller and thinner, it is more difficult to keep the components inside at a consistent and cool temperature. Remember, we've got a CPU, RAM, hard drive, and the graphics cards that generate heat as it operates. And this heat has to be expelled to bring in cool air and pass it over the laptop components. So you want to keep these ventilation grills clean to promote good airflow. Next, we have two USB 2.0 ports. Here we can connect webcams, mice, external keyboards, flash drives, and more. Next to that, we also have a FireWire port. This is an older standard FireWire 1394A that allows 400 megs per second of speed. There's many different FireWire standards. To the right of that, I have my microphone port. I can plug in an external mic here. I have my headphone jack. I can plug in external speakers or headphones. And above that, I have a PC cards pop out the plastic protector, and you can put in a PC card of your choice. I'll slide that back in there. And take a look at another side of the laptop. So let's go to the back of the laptop. On the back of the laptop, the first thing that we're going to find is on the far left side here. Now, it might be in a different location on yours, but this is called the security keyhole slot. This is special. It's a hard point on the laptop. We can connect a security cable and secure this laptop down to a desk. This is extremely helpful if you're traveling and or using your laptop in an unsecure area. Now, it's not a foolproof way to secure your laptop. It's just a convenient method to provide a deterrent to would-be thieves. On the other side of my laptop here, I actually have a couple different ports. Here is where I have my power port. This is where you're going to plug in your power adapter that goes into the wall. To the right of that, I have an S-video port. And to the right of that, I have a VGA monitor port. I can hook it to an external VGA monitor. Lastly, on this side, we can take a look and see that I have a DVD-RW drive. We can use this with our optical discs. I have another USB 2.0 port. I've got my Ethernet network jack. And I've got my RJ11 phone jack. I can connect that and get access for something like a modem. Now, before we close it up, it would be important for us to take a look at the bottom of our laptop. On the bottom of our laptop, we have a couple of different items. So let me place it down. So on the bottom of the laptop, you can see that we have a battery that's flushly connected in. We've got our locking lever and release in order to actually pop that battery out as we want to and put a new battery in. Now, it is possible to have an AC adapter plugged into your laptop without the battery. It'll be running just like a desktop computer, but you lose all your mobility. So that's why we love to have laptop batteries that hold a charge and work. Below the batteries, I actually have this port here. This is for my docking station. We'll talk about docking stations in another video, but that's what we would use with this power connector to plug it into a docking station. Now, besides talking that, we have these screws here with these compartments. These compartments are special because inside of here, we have accessible items that we can work on with this laptop. For example, in this compartment, you'd be able to find that we have our RAM, our random access memory. Over here, we have the wireless card, which you could replace on this laptop, and replace it rather easily, actually. Down below over here, this is where the hard drive is if you'd want to replace that. All these components are available because of this easy access component panels. Now we see all these grills here, just like we saw on this side. These are ventilation grills like we discussed earlier. Over here is where the actual fan is. It's going to be sucking in air from the bottom of the laptop and ejecting it out the side over here. Now on some laptops, you may find other slots on the bottom of the laptop. But take a look at the laptop you have nearby and also do some research on what exists on the internet. There's many more ports and connectors than even this laptop has, and also some of the new laptops may not have some of the ports that we discussed. So thanks for watching, and go and explore.
Hello everyone, we are here to work with the exterior frame of our laptop. That's our plastic frames. Now the exterior of our laptop is typically comprised of multiple plastic parts. You can see I've got some of these parts removed. What I have here is the removed plastic part for the hard drive, as well as for the memory module, and over here for our wireless LAN card. Up here, that's where the battery was before. Now, these plastic parts are responsible for covering these components within our laptop. Also, this huge casing itself is part of the plastic frame. Now, we have many different plastic parts, and as I mentioned, they are removed. So what we can do is take a look at our manual. Then we pull up mine. Straight out of my manual, this is the plastic kits. And this plastic kit, part of the manual, shows me that item 1, that's a cover for my PC card slot, which is on the side of my laptop. Besides that plastic part, we've got the hard drive cover, as mentioned, which goes where I said before. We also have the memory module for RAM, which is item 3. We've got the wireless LAN card plastic kit, which is item 4. And lastly, item 5, which is the Bluetooth module cover. Let's take a look back at my laptop. So here's my laptop again, and these are those card covers that were removed. 1, 2, 3. And then also down here, this is where my Bluetooth card is. And if you take a close look at this plastic frame, you can actually see right here, there's a Bluetooth indicator icon. We can zoom in on that Bluetooth icon, and you can take a closer look at removing this plastic part. So with our zoomed in view here, you can see that Bluetooth icon, and that's our Bluetooth module cover. So I can take my Phillips screwdriver and I can unscrew that screw to remove that plastic cover. With that screw completely loosened, I can take that cover and it just pulls right off. And inside, what do we have here is the Bluetooth card. And you see it's just hooked on there on a connector. I can remove that card successfully and safely and disconnect it from the connector. Now let's take a bigger view regarding our plastic frame and take a look at the entirety of the laptop frame itself. If I wish to disassemble the laptop frame itself, we have to go ahead and remove the proper screws. So you need to identify the correct screws that are installed that need to be removed from your manual. After I remove these leftover screws on my frame, we can then flip the laptop over and disassemble the plastic frame from inside the laptop. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now to remove the last screws. At this time, all the remaining screws have been removed from my laptop. I can take my laptop here and I can flip it back over. And we can take a look at the inside of the laptop. What we're going to have to do next is remove any remaining screws inside of here that are identified by our manual. Also, you can see you have a couple components that are still installed. Items such as the trackpad and the scroll, along here with a battery and even the microphone of my laptop. So I can quickly unconnect anything else that's remaining connected, and then I can talk about screws that need to be removed from this side. Now, it's always important that you disassemble safely and with minimal force, so don't just yank hard on a component. Use the correct tool to help give yourself some leverage and take it out successfully. Now that I have those connections disconnected from inside the laptop, according to my manual, I have 2 screws that I need to focus on removing. Screw number 1 is up here, and screw number 2 is down there. After moving those 2 screws, I should be able to pry up this laptop frame. So I'm ready to finish this. I had to take off 2 more hidden screws that I didn't know were on there until I consulted the manual. Again, under some rubber feet, you might find some screws, so make sure you follow your manual to the key. Those were 2 that were missed. And now with those 2 screws off, I can follow my manual, and the instructions are, I need to pull up and pry this plastic frame upwards at a 45-degree angle. And once this is up, all I need to do is lift. And it's off. And there is my plastic frame. And don't just rip it up. Make sure you do it with minimal effort and take your time. You can see here is the back side of my touchpad with those wires and cables. If I wanted to replace that touchpad, you see the screws would have to continue in order to pop that out. Inside here you have my system board, which includes the motherboard. And that is the end of removing our